We continue now at the top of Daf Kuf Mem Gimel Amud Aleph and Meseches Bava Basra. This is Bava Basra Daf 143a. And the previous summit, the Gemara was discussing a case where a person said to his wife that all of my property is going to go to the children that I have from you. This person had a son from a previous wife, and that son came and said, "What about me? Am I going to get property?" And he said, "You're going to get property just like they are going to get property." And the Gemara over there noted that the statement that he made to his wife when he said that all of my property is going to go to the children that I have with you, that statement does not mean anything, because not only have these children not been born yet, they have not even been conceived yet. And so we say that if you're trying to transfer property to those who have not even been conceived, there's no question whatsoever that that transfer of property is not going to be effective. But the Gemara had a machlokas amoraim on the previous summit. What about what he said to that other son when he said, "You're going to get a share just like them"? Is that giving this son an extra share beyond what he would normally inherit, or is it not giving him an extra share? And this was a machlokas amoraim. Rabbi Avohu said that it is not giving him an extra share, and Rabbi Yirmiyah said that it is giving an extra share. And Rabbi Avohu says to Rabbi Yirmiyah that I said over my reason to Rabbi Avin, "V'karkish bo reishe bei midrash," and in the Beis Medrash, he actually nodded to me. He said that I was correct in the reason that I gave. And so the Gemara says, Azal Lagabe. So the Gemara says, Rabbi Yirmiyah went to Rabbi Avin to find out what is the reason, why is he not entitled to an extra share? Amar Lei said to him, Ilu Amar Lei kni kechamor. Let's say he would have said to the son that you should acquire just like a donkey. Mikani, would that be an acquisition? Of course not. In other words, when he says to the son, you're going to acquire just like these future children are going to acquire, but the future children aren't going to get anything. And so therefore the son also, through this statement, is getting nothing, and that's why he gets nothing extra. That's the explanation that Rabbi Avin gave to Rabbi Yirmiyah. And the Gemara continues to Itmar, because it was stated, Kni kechamor. Let's say someone makes a statement like this, acquire like a donkey, lo kana, that is not going to be a good kinyan. At v'chamor, let's say the statement is you and the donkey, so that's already a machlokus. Rav Nachman amar kana mechser. Rav Nachman says the person will acquire half. For Rav Hamnuna amar lo amar klum. Rav Hamnuna says that he has said nothing in that case, it's not any kinyan. For Rav Sheshes amar kana hakol, and Rav Sheshes says that it's a full kinyan, he actually acquires everything in such a case. And the Rashbam explains, Vikarkish, again, Rabbi Avin nodded, Hoda Lidvara, he admitted to what I said. He said that my reason was good. Again, that's in reference to the reason that Rabbi Avo gave. And the reasoning is, Kinika chamor mikon, if a person says, acquire like a donkey, do you think that's a kinyan? Kimosha chamor lokana, kain hu lokana, just like the donkey is not going to acquire, he also won't acquire. Hachanami, here also apply the same logic. Kihechi debonim hoasidim lavo beolam lokanu, just like those future children that will be born, they're not acquiring. So iunami lokana, so this son also, who the son from the previous marriage, he also will not acquire. At v'chamor. Now, let's say a person says, you and the donkey. At ubehemazu tiknu nechasa. You and this animal will acquire my property. So that's already going to be a machlokas amoroim. Rav Nachman says, kana mechsa, he acquires half. The hachi amarle, because he's saying to him like this, ata v'chamor tiknu shnechem. You and the donkey should both acquire. Hu mechsa v'ata mechsa. You're going to get half, and the donkey is going to get half, and you're going to get half. V'lo avad ha'ish chelko b'shvil hachamor shelo talan zebazeh. The person who's supposed to get half, that individual, he doesn't lose out on his portion just because there was another portion given to the donkey. They're not dependent one on the other. That's what Rav Nachman said. Again, the person acquires half. Rav Hamnuna says, lo kana v'lo klum, he doesn't acquire anything. The kaven de v'kinyan echad shitev shneim, since he put them together as one kinyan, lo nigmar b'daitu lahakanos lozeh below zeh klum. He's not saying there's not going to be any kinyan for this party if there's no kinyan for the other party. The kaven de chamor lo kana, since the donkey doesn't acquire, yunami lo kana, so he also doesn't acquire. And finally, Rav Sheshes amar kana hakol. Rav Sheshes says that the person actually acquires everything. Adam yodeya she'ein chamor kona, because the person knows the donkey doesn't acquire anything. V'gamar b'daito shemishu yuchal liknos mishneim yiknen. What he's really saying is, whatever entity is able to acquire from the two of you is going to get it, and therefore the person is going to acquire everything according to Rav Sheshes. And the Gemara continues, Amar Rav Sheshes says, Mino aminallah, from where can I prove to you that by the case of At v'chamor, the person acquires everything? Tanya, as we learned in a Brisa, Rabbi Yossi says, Ein loch mar b'kishas el apnimi shabo, there's no part of a cucumber that is more bitter than the inside. Lefikach, therefore, kishu torim, when he takes a cucumber and he separates it as truma for the other produce, mosef al achitzon shabo, he should add on from another cucumber to the outside of this cucumber, give a little extra as truma, v'torim, and he should should take off truma in that fashion. And so the Gemara says, now why is that effective? Amai, why should that work? At v'chamoru, here he's saying you and the donkey. He's including the inner part of the cucumber as truma. That already is inedible, it's inferior, it shouldn't be truma. And therefore the entire thing, it should not be effective. But we see that it is effective. And therefore it seems that again, by at v'chamor, kana hakol. And the Gemara says, Shani hasam, it's different over there. The midoraisa truma mal yosahi, that on a doraisa level, even the bitter part of the cucumber actually is perfectly good truma. D'amar Rabbi Law, because Rabbi Law says, minayin l'torim min haral ayofe shet trumas, or truma. From where do we know that if you take truma from inferior on superior product, that that's a good truma? Shenemar, as it says, v'losisu alav chet b'harimchem eschel bo mimenu. It says that when you separate it, you shouldn't sin. And we understand from that pasuk, v'im eino kaddish, if it wasn't holy, if it wasn't effective truma when you take from an inferior part, nesiyot chet lama, why would that be called a sin? The fact that it's called v'losisu alav chet, it's called a sin, that sounds like the truma was effective. It's not something you're supposed to do, but it is effective. Mikan l'torah min harala yafa shet truma so truma. From here we see that if somebody takes truma from the inferior product on the good product, that is truma, and so therefore you can't bring a proof from this case of truma to our situation of at v'chamor. And the Gemara continues, Amar le Rav Mordechai le Rav Ashi. Rav Mordechai said to Rav Ashi, Mesiv Rav Avya to Yuvta. Rav Avya asked the following refutation with regards to the case of At v'chamor. The Mishnah in Kiddushin says, Ma'isa b'chamesh nashim u'vehen shtei achayos. There was an incident with 5 women, and among the 5 women were 2 sisters. V'lik erechad kalkala shel ta'enim. And there was a man who gathered up a basket of figs. V'shelahen ha'isad belonged to them. However, v'shel shvias ha'isad was also of the year of shvias, so it was ownerless. V'yamar, and he said, Hare kulchen mikud. He said, I'm going to be Makadish, all of you, all 5 of you, with this basket of figs. And then one of the women, she accepted it on behalf of all of them. So Amru Chachamim, so the Chachamim said, Ein achayus mekudashos. Again, among the 5 women, 2 of them were sisters. You can't be Makadish sisters. So he said that the sisters, the Kiddushin doesn't work for them. And the Gemara infers, Achayus hudain mekudashos. So it doesn't work for the sisters. Hanachrios mekudashos, but it does work for the other women. So why should it work? At v'chamori, isn't this a case of you and the donkeys? Because again, by the sisters, it's not going to be effective. But we see that in the case of at v'chamor, apparently it is effective. We have a proof from this Mishnah along the lines of Rav Sheshes that it should be effective. Amar Lei said to him, Hainu dechazoi Rav Huna bar Avya bechelma. He said, this refutation that you're asking me, this is Rav Ashi responding to Rav Mordechai, this refutation that you're asking me, that you're saying Rav Avya said this refutation, that must be why I saw Rav Huna, the son of Avya, in a dream. The most of Rav Avya tiyufta, because it's Rav Avya who was asking the refutation, meaning I had like a premonition that this was going to be the refutation. I had a premonition that involved Rav Avya somewhat, because I saw Rav Huna bar Avya in a dream, and that's because again Rav Avya asked this refutation from the Mishnah in Meseches Kiddushin, but he said that the answer to the refutation is as follows: Lav miu kimna do amar haruuya mikem labia tiskadeshli. Didn't we say that Mishnah in Kiddushin, he didn't simply say take this basket of figs and it's a Kiddushin. He said only those who are fit for having relations for the Kiddushin, only they should have the Kiddushin. So by putting that stipulation in, of course it only applies to the women who are not sisters, and that's why the Kiddushin takes effect in that case. And the Gemara continues, there was a person who said to his wife, my property will go to you, and it will go to your sons. Amar Rav Yosef says, Kansa Mechsa. What that means to say is she gets half. Essentially, the wife gets half the property, and half the property is divided among the children. V'yamar Rav Yosef, and Rav Yosef says, Mino Aminallah, from where can I prove to you that she gets half in such a situation when you're giving something to an individual and a group, that individual is going to get half? The Tanya, as we learned in a Brisa, Rebbe says, it says it's going to be for Aaron and his children. That's a reference to the Lechem HaPonim that they divide up, and we say, Mechza li'Aaron, Mechza levanav, half of it goes to Aaron and half goes to his children, and so the same thing applies over here. And the Gemara continues, Amar le Abaya said to him, he said to Rav Yosef, Bishlama Hasam, it makes sense over there, Aaron bar Chalukahu, because Aaron anyway was supposed to get a portion of the Lechem HaPonim, Lahachi Parad Bei Rachmanin, so therefore if the Torah specifies Aaron, Lemishkal Palga means to say that he gets more than just a regular portion, he gets 50%, he gets half. But when it comes to a wife, Lav Bas Yerushahi, she's not somebody who's supposed to inherit, Daya Shatitol Ke'echan Min Abanim, so if he's giving her a portion, she should take the same portion as each of the other children. But the Gemara continues, Ini, is that really a good argument? But there actually was a case in Nahardai. V'yagbe Shmuel Palga, and Shmuel actually said that she gets half. And B'Tiveria, there was a case in Tiveria like this. V'yagbe Rabbi Yochanan Palga, and Rabbi Yochanan said that the individual gets half. V'su, and further, Kiyasar Rav Yitzchak Bar Yosef Amar, when Rav Yitzchak Bar Yosef came, he said, Ahu Demei Kalila, Deshadu Demei Malka, there was a coronation tax that the king was imposing. Abule V'Astaruge, he was imposing it on the wealthy individuals and on the officers of the city. Amar Rebbe, and Rebbe said, Nesvu Abule Palga V'Istaruge Palga. He said that the wealthy individuals, they should give half, and the Istaruge, these Sarim, these officers, they should give half. And so again, you see from all of these cases that it's divided 50-50. But the Gemara says, with regards to the Abule and the Istaruge, Hachi Hashta, how can you compare these cases? Hasam over there, may Karaki have a Kasvi Abule, have a Kasvi V'Istaruge, have a Messiah Ba'adayu. Over there, had he originally written the Abule, so then it would have meant that the Istaruge should be of some assistance. V'Yada Malka Dahavaka Messiah, and the king understood that they would be supporting, that they would be assisting. So Hashta now, Maidaka Kasvi Abule V'Istaruge, so if he's writing both on the Abule and the Istaruge, he's saying that they all share in the tax, so that has to be adding some responsibility to the Istaruge, so Lamemer, so that means to say, Dahani Palga Vahani Palga, that these are giving 50%, and the others are giving 50%. It's more obvious in this case of the coronation tax, and you can't necessarily use that to prove to our case. And the Gemara continues, Mesev Rabbi Zera. Rabbi Zera asks a question on Rav Yosef's ruling from the following Brisa. Again, Rav Yosef saying that it's divided 50-50. The Brisa says, and this is from the Tosefta, Ha'omer Harei Alai Mincha, if somebody says, I'm going to give a Mincha, Mea Isaron, it's going to be 100 Isaron, and Isaron refers to a tenth of an Ephah, so it's going to be 100 Isaron, Lahavi B'Shnei Kelim, but it's going to be brought in 2 vessels. So what should he do? How should he divide up the 100 Isaron? Mevi Shishim B'Kli Echad, he should bring 60 Isaron in one vessel, V'Arboim B'Kli Echad, and he should bring 40 Isaron in the other vessel, and we will continue with this discussion in the next video on Daf Kuf Mem Gimel Amid Beis.